continued to push on the gas, eventually just pushing through us.
It was a scary scene this afternoon as a group protesting in downtown Champaign had a truck drive through their line. Good evening, I'm Jen Lask. WCIA 3's Andy Olson talked with one of the protesters who witnessed it. He's live in the newsroom. Andy, why were they over there?
Well, Jen, the group was right outside Rogue Barber Company in downtown Champaign. They said they were there to speak out against their policy for customers to not be part of Black Lives Matter. They were blocking the road, and that's when things got scary. A protest in Champaign initially was for the cancellation of rent and utility shutoffs. But after hearing of a policy at Rogue Barber Company that makes customers sign off on not being part of Black Lives Matter, the group wanted to protest that as well. They took up the road, but one driver didn't feel like waiting. In this video from Charlotte Jones, a driver in a red truck can be seen pushing his way through the crowd. At the protest, David Arizaga was there to rush over and make sure his friends were okay.
I think mostly what I was going through was just trying to make sure that all my friends and everyone were safe, because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most, is that we can go out again and, continue to be there for the community in the ways that we need to. There is one protest, but, we have to continue to keep working.
No one was hurt, but a protester's bike was run over. Protests continued down Neal Street before holding at the intersection of Main. While it was scary, the group was happy their message wasn't able to be silenced.
It is extremely terrifying, but, what matters for me is that we were able to still go on with our protest, and we were able to keep all of our family safe, because that is our organizers. We are like a family out there.
A couple hours later,
now, protesters there were able to catch the license plate of the truck and have reported that to police so they could look into it. Live in the newsroom, Andy Olson, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
All right, scary moments. Thank you, Andy. A group of socialists led that protest to bring attention to foreclosures and evictions, as Andy was saying. They began the day at Westside Park, and they say they hope, in addition to more protection at a state level, they can get change on a local level as well.
The state of Illinois has extended the moratorium on evictions, but that's not good enough of a promise for the community here in Champaign-Urbana. We need more assurance that people will not be thrown out of their homes.
If you are struggling with a light bill, starting Monday, the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission will begin its low-income energy assistance program. Protesters also gathered in Springfield for what they called the Million Unmasked March. About 150 people came to the Capitol to speak out against the State Board of Education's mask mandate when schools return in the fall. WCIA 3's Cole Henke was there.
For the 150 people at the Million Unmasked March in Springfield, following a mask mandate is equivalent to giving up their rights.
We know what's best for our children. We can call it parents' intuition, but it should be our choice.
The crowd, made up of parents and even teachers, all firmly believe that requiring kids to wear masks at school is inhumane and cruel.
I don't see why we need to put them in masks, give them potential for psychological damage down the road, and of course the potential to create more health problems for them as a result of wearing a mask over and over and over again. We fundamentally disagree with that.
March organizer Michael REBRESH said he isn't opposed to people wearing masks, but believes that others should have the choice not to wear one. The march also drew some counter-protesters. Trevor Good, a junior at Glenwood High School, came out after one of the school board members advertised the march.
Well, nearly every virologist agrees that it's the safest way to make sure kids can return to school. I agree with these protesters that we should be returning to school, but to be clear, that comes with a stipulation.
One of the people marching was arrested by Springfield police after she spit on a counter-protester. The protester was holding this sign when she spit on him. The mask mandate is meant to protect both children and staff when they return to school. Masks are found to slow the spread of the virus and keep undiagnosed or asymptomatic kids or staff from spreading it around the school. But REBRESH doesn't see the point in that.
Asymptomatic, if I'm asymptomatic and you make that call, then I'm going to say you're asymptomatic. If we're both asymptomatic, why are we both wearing masks? We've already got it.
Representative Darren Bailey and his attorney Tom DeVore spoke at the march as well. They echoed the claims that the mask mandate violates their rights as Americans. Reporting in Springfield, I'm Cole Henke, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
A few of the speakers voiced concerns about students not being able to hear their teachers or see their mouths moving behind the masks, but the State Board of Education released suggestions saying teachers should try to get clear masks to avoid that issue. Meanwhile, across the state line, Indiana's governor is dropping a planned criminal penalty from the statewide face mask mandate that he signed yesterday. This comes after some law enforcement officials and conservative legislators pushed back. Governor Eric Holcomb had said Wednesday when he announced the requirement that violators could face a misdemeanor charge. But the order he signed doesn't mention penalties and describes the move as a step to protect health during the COVID-19 outbreak. Indiana's reported 934 cases, new cases within the past day, and has a rolling positivity rate of 8.9%. The Illinois Department of Public Health is reporting 1,426 new confirmed cases of COVID-19. That includes 12 additional confirmed deaths. This brings the total to nearly 170,000 cases, including 7,397 deaths. The preliminary 7-day statewide positivity for cases here is 3.6%. The Springfield chapter of Black Lives Matter held a voter registration day today. It was the first of many as we head towards the November general election. The event was held at the African American History Museum in Springfield, and the president of the chapter said the goal is to get as many people registered to vote as possible, no matter who they intend to vote for.
Regardless of whether they're our target audience or not, should be registered to vote and should use that that service out there. So it's important for me and anyone that we're trying to reach, because you need to vote for people from the top down to local campaigns that are going to represent the interests that you have.
The event also doubled as a collection day for the group's annual school supply drive. 6 days of events honoring Representative John Lewis began today in Troy, Alabama, the hometown that helped shape his lifelong quest for racial justice. In 1986, Lewis was elected to the House and became known as the conscience of Congress. He died last Friday at the age of 80. CBS News correspondent Michelle Miller reports from Selma, Alabama, where Lewis became part of history in the civil rights movement.
He was a man of action.
U.S. Representative John Lewis's hometown of Troy, Alabama, celebrated the civil rights pioneer's life with love, music, and prayer.
Good trouble allowed John to cross bridges blockaded by legalized lynchmen who were inspired by the false notion of racial supremacy.
The Georgia Democrat's siblings recalled his character, even in a phone call the day before he lost his battle to late-stage pancreatic cancer.
And his last word was, "How's the family doing? How's everybody doing?"
He always wanted to improve the lives of others without any concern for himself.
This is not a goodbye. It's just a different kind of hello.
Saturday evening, the city of Selma pays tribute to Lewis and his legacy.
It was right here in Selma when Lewis and protesters seeking equal voting rights began their 54-mile march to Montgomery.
Practicing nonviolent protest, the marchers got as far as the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
They turned around and dispersed.
And they came toward us, beating us with nightsticks, using tear gas and trampling us with horses.
2 weeks after the attack, remembered as Bloody Sunday, Lewis and hundreds more, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., completed the march. In a ceremony Sunday, Lewis's casket will be brought across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, making that inspiring journey one last time. Michelle Miller, CBS News, Selma, Alabama.
Over the next week, Representative Lewis will lie in state at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., as well as Alabama and Georgia's state capitals. His funeral will be held Thursday at Atlanta's famed Ebenezer Baptist Church. Illinois Senate candidate Mark Curran was criticized heavily after questioning Lewis's role as a civil rights leader. He's running against Dick Durbin and doubled down on what he said on this week's episode of Capitol Connection, claiming that Lewis's stance on abortion wiped away any causes he fought for during his life.
Tell me what I said that wasn't true. That's what I would ask. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think we're afraid to speak a truth, and I think that's part of the problem with the world right now, America right now, is that we want to be politically correct, and if truth offends, then we won't say it.
The full interview can be seen on tomorrow's episode of Capital Connection. An Illinois lawmaker wants to take a closer look at businesses that public and private universities are hiring. The goal is to make sure they are being equitable in their process, and Representative Chris Welch sent letters to every public university in the state and some private ones that receive endowments from Illinois.
I'm also looking for how they're spending their dollars from their foundations and their endowments. These universities and colleges are receiving millions of dollars in state funding. I think it's totally within our realm to make sure that they are spending their money in an equitable fashion.
Welch intends to use the data to craft legislation for the upcoming year if the finding shows that universities don't bring in Black-owned businesses enough. Amelia?
All right, well, we've started out our weekend, as you've all probably realized. Very warm start to the weekend with temperatures into the upper 80s, feeling more like into the 90s, but hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that heat index is only going to continue to rise. Going to be feeling more like into the hundreds for your Sunday. Plus, we'll have a look at this next upcoming rainfall coming up right after this.
WCIA.